passionate about is product management, right? It's a tough role, right? In terms of product management, it's such an amorphous role where it's sort of, there's no real, well, things have changed a bit I would say, and I'm dating myself, which I'll continue to do through the course of this presentation. But when I was in university, there was no product management at that time. Was more like, call it a brand manager or something to that degree, where you had CPGs who sort of, they were the ones that pioneered product management. And now, I mean, we basically see product management as more of a software or tech function. So it's great to see that. And, we'll hopefully, even though it's a webinar, I mean, I hope, this is more of a conversation. And, we can get into questions related to product management. So this is basically, sort of the framework that I'll be using. I'll give you an idea about, what my experience is. Maybe, we can level set in terms of, what product management is about. So basically, look at the key attributes, even within product managers, right? Like we see there's such a difference in product managers too. I mean, I work at ACV Auctions, and we've got a bunch of product managers, and we're all sort of different kind of product managers. So it'll be good for us to maybe, spend a minute or two in terms of what kind of product managers we see, because a lot of it, would be influenced depending on what your current experience is, where you might be able to fit in, and, where your interests lie. And then we'll get into sort of, the journey types. How do, what's sort of a way to get into product management, and then maybe and then we can get into, how to actually get into product management. I have to profess, I mean, this is my opinion. This is, my experiences. There are many, as this saying goes, there are many ways to, skin a cat. So I'm always learning new things, and so let's at least, take this view of the world, and hopefully I'll learn something from this as well. And so with that, why don't we just get into, our agenda as such. So a little bit about me. I've been in product management, for over 10 years. Currently, I am the director of product at ACV Auctions. So I'm primarily focused on building products that are related to the inspection platform. ACV Auctions is basically a B2B marketplace that's focused primarily on autos. So I'm part of the product team here. I've been in product management, like I said, for over 10 years. Prior to ACV, I was at Purelator. For that, at Cap One, Kijiji, BlackBerry, and like I said, I'll keep dating myself. I started off my product management career at Netscape, in my past life, I used to work as a developer, and after working as a developer, I sort of was always interested in terms of the big picture, right? Like, I mean, it was nice to work as a developer where you're working on building stuff, but it was more so, why are we doing certain things? Why are we actually building the product that we're truly working on? And that sort of led me to grad school, where I got an MBA. And then, after I got out of business school, I basically got recruited as a product manager. So again, that was sort of my way into product management. It's funny that I want to say, like, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I actually went through my the essays that one writes for business school, and lo and behold, I had actually written that I wanted to be a product manager. I mean, there are things that you actually kind of make up, if you will, as part of those essays, and it was kind of neat to see that I was able to do what I at least said I was going to do. So that was kind of neat. So let's maybe take a look at, what a product manager is, right? Like, there are, many aspects of product management, but if I was to sort of, distill it down to, 4 or 5 aspects, and I would say the primary one is, you do get terms thrown out, the PM is basically, someone who is the CEO. Not true. Let's stay away from that analogy. I would say, a product manager is basically the guardian of the roadmap, right? Like they're the ones that are responsible for the roadmap. One would, talk about the capabilities or the feature sets that become part of that roadmap, especially in the way how, we go about building things. You want to empower the entire team, squad, guild, whatever fashion you look at, to be contributing towards that roadmap, but ultimately it's the job of the product manager to prioritize, right? Like in terms of, hey, we're working on this capability. This is the feature set. That's how it's going to be prioritized. To me, that's the primary function. A product manager is basically, someone who should be the market expert. They understand their customers' needs, their space. It's important for them to, understand the market. It's great to be a product expert, and the difference between a product and a market is important, right? Like product implies, hey, your specific product, right? Like, so let's say if I was a product manager of AirPods, I would know this. The product would be, I would know my product, the AirPod, in and out, but the market would be, hey, let's think about, wearables in terms of headsets and what have you. So there's a difference in that, and great product managers are folks, who understand the market. So now, you've got the product expert. And the last one, right, like it's a soft skill, but one that's extremely important is a product manager should be able to influence and drive the team. Like I said, the whole analogy of a product manager being the CEO is incorrect. CEO, everyone reports into them. It's pretty straightforward, right? Hey, they're the ones who said it. I'm the one, who's going to actually say this is what needs to be done. The reporting structure allows them to do that. In the case of a product manager, not many folks actually, report into that org structure, especially in the way how, squads and guilds and domains, those aspects are set up. So it's an extremely important skill for a product manager to be able to influence the team, right? Like cajole them into say, hey, this is the roadmap that we're working towards, and let's all be energized towards working to solve those specific problems. So these are aspects I would say that are extremely important, and the ones that I would say are key attributes towards the product manager's role. Again, like I said, product management roles, they can vary even within the company. Some, like the one that I just described, is basically, the classical product manager, right? Like ones that are actually driving specific products. Then you've got a technical product manager. So ones that are more technology focused. An example would be, hey, they're the ones that basically, spec out APIs, right? Like, so you do need to have a pretty good understanding of maybe even code, right? Like in your past life, you might have been a developer. That's someone, who's a technical product manager. Data PMs, I mean, they're ones, that are sort of immersed more in data. They understand that space pretty well. Possible, options could be, hey, you're the one that, basically define maybe what your, they might be sort of part of the analytics team as well, and then also function as a product manager. Another aspect of a product manager, another role is folks, who are UX driven, right? Like, so this one would be, I mean, we've sort of seen more of that as products have become, more experiential. That's where you see product managers sort of be more towards the experience side of things, and we've seen that trend of folks who have been, designers become great product managers just because of the expectation that, hey, products don't really need to solve a function, but it caters to something that goes beyond, and that's where the UX piece really fits in well. And then the last one is marketing, call it marketing product managers, or for folks that are the specialists that maybe look at the go-to-market strategy. That's an aspect. Or then maybe early on in the funnel that a term that gets thrown around is growth product managers. So if you were to look at basically a product adoption curve, these guys are folks, gals too, who are folks who are focused more on getting in the users onto that product. I mean, that's what they're focused on, rather than the life cycle of focused on revenue and those aspects of things. But they're the ones that are sort of driving traffic, maybe looking at subscription. Once you've sort of, got that captive audience, then maybe, another product manager basically takes over and works on that aspect of the life cycle. So these are, again, different product management roles, depending on, what your core skill set might be, as well as your interest. You might be driven towards one of these roles as well. And so now that, we've basically come up with this framework, we should look at, hey, what are the different ways that one actually could get into product management? So I would say the simplest, or, one that's relatively straightforward is, you start your career. You have a reasonably good understanding of what a product manager does. This is, hey, your interest level. Maybe you've taken some coursework and you want to start off as maybe as a BA or a requirements analyst. Some orgs have, an associate PM as well. So you start off with, your role being primarily requirements driven, in the sense that, you work maybe someone who's a strategic PM or, a director of PM. They're the ones that are focused more on driving the strategy. And then you work towards actually, drafting those requirements, sort of, getting really into the nitty gritty and setting those requirements for the development team. The beauty of this role is, you get the opportunity of sort of seeing that entire journey, and you've got, a coach like a strategic PM who can help you out in terms of, hey, maybe, you want to look at this aspect, right? Like requirements is only one element of it. You've got to sort of look at the data. You've got to understand the market. You've got to work towards building a prioritization framework. So one has the ability of sort of, learning and settling into that role. Like, for example, we've hired folks even, who might be co-ops, right? Like they have expressed interest as wanting to become product managers. And so this is a great place to start and, work towards becoming a product manager. I would say, the next one is basically the developer to PM route, something that I took on. And, here you have the fact that, we're dealing primarily with product managers, specifically in the technology arena. As a developer, you understand technology well. The core audience, the ones that you interface with, are primarily developers. So you do have that credibility with that audience, right? Like you understand, you can speak that language. You have empathy for the team, more so. Like I say, I'm kind of removed from that coding world, but I know enough to be dangerous, with my developer colleagues. But that level of empathy, even for your team is extremely important. An opportunity for developers who sort of, transition into the PM route is building that muscle of customer centricity, right? Like, I mean, previously in my career, I would always have the tendency to over-engineer things, right? Like, hey, this feature is good, but I think we can get better. And that's where, you need to understand, hey, what's good enough? What does the customer truly want? Is the capability that you've built, is it good enough for solving that problem? And then, let's work towards solving the next piece that's important in that in the product. Other aspects would be, working with the sales team, working with the go-to-market team, building those aspects. Because again, our job is half done. It's done only when the product and the market can sort of exist together, or it's actually in the market. Just a feature being dev complete isn't good enough. So we've got to build that aspect of it as well, of taking into market, and that's a growth opportunity for developers who want to become product managers too. One thing, right, like that I mentioned earlier was you do see products that are heavily focused into technology. So let's say, you're building maybe a technology platform, you're building API tool sets. And so a developer would sort of, really fit in well within this role. The next one is, a UI or UX designer transitioning into a product management role. As a designer who's set up within the squad, you generally understand customer needs. You're basically working towards that whole. If you're using design thinking or some framework to that, you understand that element of, hey, these are the customer's needs. Let's sort of let's prototype, and and then ultimately put out an MVP and sort of rinse repeat. So they do have a good understanding of generally what is the approach that a product manager might take as they go about building their product. They fit in well within the whole squad as well. And like I mentioned, with customers wanting a more experiential product rather than something that was more feature based. I think designers tend to fit that, call it the new wave of product managers really well. And I've seen a bunch of designers really transition well into that product management role. An opportunity for a designer might be, being more data centric. So rather than just making sure that, you have those frameworks set up, if you go about, A/B testing, getting comfortable with data, that's an important aspect. And then the last one is, hey, let's look at that prioritization framework as well, right? Like, so rather than just be focused on optimization, it's about what's good enough and how can sort of one work through that list of features. Customer-centric roles, right? Like, so I've also seen some of my colleagues who were previously, part of the CS team become great product managers. They do have that natural bias towards, having that empathy for the customer, one that's, extremely important as you go about building products. They deeply understand customer issues, and they're, able to put themselves in the shoes of the customer and actually, work towards building a better product. Growth opportunities for folks who have been in CS roles would be, hey, how are you able to get that appreciation for your market rather than just specifically your product. Your product, I mean, obviously you're an expert at it. And then another one I would say is hey, working towards sort of the business case aspect of things, right? Like being able to sort of build that muscle of looking at data rather than specifically as, hey, this is a feature that we need to build out. Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes a feature is good enough, and then you need to move on and then actually look at the business case and build off it. So I would say, I mean, these are sort of the core roles that one can transition into a product manager. And so now we've sort of looked at these, and then how does one actually get into product management, right? Something that folks might look at is a career change, and then they might enroll into grad school. Something that I went about was going back to grad school, getting an MBA. The good thing about that is it's not just sort of job focused, right? Like it's more career focused. I was looking for something that went beyond just being a developer. But one thing that I learned in business school was just changing the way how I thought about things, and so that is something that really worked well for me. Obviously, the challenge with that is there's a significant time commitment if you were to go to grad school, and it can be pretty expensive as well. And so another alternative there, right, like is, hey, can you're already working in a specific role, can you sort of, extend into a product management role, right? Like sometimes you do have those opportunities, right? Like where you might be able to, if you're a developer, you could, rather than being a classical product manager, you could sort of become a technology product manager, right? Like, so it's slightly out of your comfort zone, but again, it takes advantage of the skills that you previously developed, right? Like you understand technology really well, And so a tech PM really is one that can work. On the design side, you can become, a UX centric PM. So I would say, these are ways that you can sort of take on these roles that sort of extend your current or your prior background. Coursework, I would say, there are a bunch of places that carry out specific product management coursework. When I was in school, we didn't really have anything that was specific to product management. It was more so the CPG kind of product management. But now you do see places like BrainStation or Pragmatic sort of be focused more on the technology product management aspect of things. It's a nice way to get a quick primer in terms of, hey, what product management is about. You do get some course call it project work where you're able to increase your understanding in terms of what product management is, and then again you can work on sort of either flexing into those specific roles. The last one I would say is, stretch into your current role, right? Like, so take on assignments that provide some flavors of product management, right? Like be it requirements, competitive analysis, go-to-market. So something I would say from my prior experience, right? Like I was sort of into product management, and I sort of wanted to get more on the marketing side of things. So given the fact that, hey, I was already building out the product, I was able to, sort of take on that specific role of, hey, I'm going to become even the marketing manager specifically for my product, and then, learn those aspects as well. So I would say those are elements that, one can take on. Maybe, if you're part of an organization which is, a bit strapped for resources, you could possibly take on some aspects and learn these areas, and then once you're comfortable, then formally apply for those roles. And so to summarize, right, like there isn't a single path into product management. Heck, there isn't even an easy way to define what a product manager is. I would say first start off with why you want to be a product manager, what aspect of it excites you. Also understand that there are pain points of being a product manager as well. So try and discover a little bit more in terms of what excites you about product management. Get some training. There's so many resources out there that can expose you to the areas of product management, and then after that, right? Like if you can flex within your current role, I would say that's a great way of getting into product management. But if not, and if you're looking for a specific new role, try and put yourself in the shoes of a recruiter or a hiring manager to say, what, this person doesn't really have the true experience of a product manager, but they have been able to showcase some of those attributes, right? Like in terms of, were you able to sort of, be customer centric in certain areas? Were you able to influence the team? Were you able to use data in order to make, better feature or product decisions? So that's one way of sort of, tailoring your resume to say, yeah, I might not have a formal product management title, but I've been able to, express those crafts in the line of work that I've done. And that's, I would say, that's probably a good way to get into product management. So that's basically what I have. I'd love to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, absolutely, Vikram. So let me go through the questions here. First one, how does one convey customer centricity, empathy to potential employers during the interview or elsewhere? It's kind of squishy. It's not something that can be conveyed quantitatively.
Yeah, I would say even there, right? Like you can showcase it in that fashion of, hey, if you've been working on a specific product, right? Like the great thing is one can have avenues of feedback, right? Like we have so many ways of getting customer feedback. Part of it could be surveys, part of it could be even just speaking to customers, right? Like I would say that's an element of, hey, if you've got a product out there, obviously, you've got customers, and sometimes it can be as simplistic as picking up the phone and, talking to a few customers, understanding, how they're using their product. So to me, there are different ways, like, for example, customer centricity. Like I personally read all the App Store reviews that are written for, our products. To me, that's an aspect of, understanding what the customers' pain points are. Sending out, an occasional survey via SurveyMonkey or, any of those tool sets. Even looking at your own data, to me, even though, you're not really, one might say, hey, that's secondary information, but it is a true metric to say how customers are actually using your product, right? Like, so there are different ways to obtain those signals which customers might be expressing, and then, presenting that viewpoint when it comes to recruiters. So that's why.
Absolutely. Next one, and this is a good question because it comes up quite often in product management circles, especially from people trying to join product management. How vital is learning Scrum? I have product development experience as well as product specialty in sales. Would my lack of Scrum knowledge be an obstacle to getting a job in product management?
Yeah, I would say absolutely not, right? Like, I mean, Scrum, Kanban, Waterfall, I mean, that's those, Scrum Ban, hey, depending on, which organization you're part of, I mean, there's a flavor to it. It's just a way, I would say, obviously I'm simplifying it, but it's a way of working. There's a fairly logical element to it. I certainly, I wouldn't hold it against anyone if they've never, been in an agile environment, right? Like to me, that's a skill that can be easily learned. Yeah, I wouldn't hold that against anyone. To me, those aspects of, product management in terms of, hey, how do you go about building your product, understanding your customers, to me, those are aspects which take a while to, become part of your routine. Scrum, Agile, I mean, those are just methodologies, and those can be easily learned.
Absolutely. Wow, I'm just loving some of these questions that are coming in. Next one is, in your experience, what are some approaches that product managers can take to effectively manage expectations from across the organization to trust in the product development process and roadmap? Recognizing that the customer needs may be driving a sense of urgency through sales or some of the teams for certain features that are not highly prioritized. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question, right? Like, and the one that becomes, which is why the ability to influence becomes so important, right? Like the fact that you're prioritizing and let's just use an example, right? Like, hey, maybe you've got 4 features, and obviously one's got to be number 1, and the requesters are 2, 3, 4. Especially, feature number 4 is probably going to be more pissed off than the others, right? Like, so this is where you need to have those, I would say, honest conversations, and it's not just saying, hey, you know what, one's more important than 4. It sucks to be you, but it's more so, having that empathy there, even for the sales team or elsewhere, as to why you're prioritizing in that fashion, right? Like, it's important to provide them the entire context as to why we're doing feature 1 versus feature 4. I think when one can present that and take emotion out of the equation, I think that's when folks can sort of understand as to why the roadmap has been prioritized in the way that it has.
Next question. What is your advice for dealing with or trying to improve legacy systems?
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? Like, I mean, legacy systems, hey, you know what? Improving legacy systems, it really comes down to what the scenario is, right? Like, in certain cases, it might be what is what is one actually trying to do? I mean, is the legacy systems, is it still solving a function that's still important, or is the effort that's being undertaken in order to maintain it large enough, and then maybe a migration, or creating a new platform. So we're going through that exercise ourselves, right? Like where we've got a product that's super successful, but we're taking a step back and understanding what our customers need. What are the pain points, and is there more value in building things again? And occasionally, as a part of a technology platform, we've got to go through that and make sure that we're solving customers' problems and being able to respond to them quickly enough, rather than spending a majority of our tech resourcing on bug fixes or just maintenance. So you've got to have that balance, right? Like in terms of new feature capability as well as maintenance. And every organization has a different appetite towards it, and you've got to figure out what's the appetite within your org to do those things.
Good. Next one is, how would you, and this is probably relevant to people being interviewed for product management or people that are hiring product managers, how would you define product sense? What are some go-to questions you use to test for the skill, and what kind of answers do you expect?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, for me, I'm, like I said, I'm looking more for, it's more for aptitude rather than specific industry experience. Obviously it helps, but for me it's more about do you when it comes to product management, are you able to, do you have that empathy for the customer, right? Like, are you able to sort of look from that lens standpoint? Are you data driven, right? Like, do you typically use data to make product decisions? What's your approach in terms of prioritization? What's the framework that you typically use in order to prioritize maybe feature A or feature B? So that's generally sort of the aspects that I'm looking for, and this might be a tough one, but to even validate. But do you sort of have that element of curiosity in you, right? Like, I mean, for us, more often than not, I mean, things that we're working on now, I might be a product expert at something now, but guess what? Within 12 months, that's probably not going to be relevant. And so, am I able to adapt and learn something and still be curious enough and be hungry enough to sort of change my ways? So for me, these are aspects that are important, rather than looking for this particular skill set because that's what we require right now. And so if I was to maybe distill it down, it's I generally look for, I would say, general athletes rather than specific skill sets.
Cool. Next one's a fun one. I think it has to do with your Zoom background. Are you from Streetsville? And that's where the person that asked the question grew up in.
Yeah, I am from Well, I live in Streetsville, and that's basically Queen Street. I typically go for a run, and in these COVID days, it's good to see that folks are social distancing. So there was basically nobody there, which I kind of thought was neat. Take a picture.
Very cool. Are there any certifications we could do to transition into product management?
Like I said, right? Like, I mean, there are a bunch of organizations that provide formal training. Like there's BrainStation, there's Pragmatic Marketing, there's 280 Degree. So there are a bunch, and I would say, I mean, they're a good way to sort of formally improve your understanding of product management. I would say, yeah, I mean, those are ones. I would say personally for me, hey, certification is great, but and it's a nice way to improve your understanding. But I don't put much weight into those certifications, but I do recognize, hey, someone's got to start somewhere, and that's a good place to start.
Cool. I have to do a shameless plug here, but Products That Count also offers a product management certification course. You're more than welcome to check it out on the website as well. Next question, could you explain the classic type of PM a little bit more, part of the types of PMs?
Sure. I mean, a classical PM would be, one that, when you're thinking about a product, right? Like, so there are folks that, are, and a product could be like, for example, a product that I'm managing, right? Like, which is call it an inspection platform. And so effectively it is a mobile app that, we're building towards. So I won't say it's, one that, what you're doing is basically, understanding, customers' needs. Hey, what is the problem? So that's one. And then even prior to that, right? Like, hey, what is the problem that we're trying to solve, right? Like, so those are the aspects that, one is looking to answer, and then, building the product, from, call it either the ground up, or in certain cases, building on specific capabilities. So I would say, that's where you're actually looking at a specific product. There isn't a bias, or I would say, over-indexing in terms of, hey, I'm focused, more on a specific technology or element. It's ultimately, trying to solve a specific problem, rather than being, too focused either in terms of types of channels. So it's not like, I'm focused primarily on a mobile app. Hey, it could be web if that solves the problem. In certain cases, it might be even, hey, I could have, a data feed. So it's sort of, having an open mind in terms of choice of platform technology rather than indexing in a certain area.
Awesome. This is a very relevant question to what's happening today. We may be looking at working from home for quite a while. Is product management something you can excel in a totally online environment, Zoom, etc.? What about if we're just getting started with product management?
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? Like, so there's the fact that, within our company and elsewhere, right? Like, we're still carrying out our day jobs. So obviously, it is possible, but there's still, I guess, specifically in our scenario, right? Like, we've sort of, so you can look at it in a couple of ways, right? Like, as we've gone towards having more agile teams, and there was an emphasis on being local and being in one, almost in one room, right? Like, sitting together, because those informal conversations really, help in problem solving, as well as working towards rapid prototypes, right? Like, that to me is an aspect we've certainly lost right now. In an ideal world, hey, we would have that aspect, but at least in our case, right? Like, I would say specifically within our company, we have those relationships where we can sort of extend that remote environment into sort of mimicking what we could do in our local environment. So to answer that question, it's tough, but it's possible. It's obviously not going to replicate all of it, but what we have is good enough. And if one is starting, afresh, obviously, a lot of we do is about relationships, because again, when you're influencing folks, you want to have that, relationships, building those relationships, building that trust, sort of, that takes time. Proximity helps in that. So certainly, those are hurdles that we need to overcome, but it's certainly possible.
have any books or thought leaders influence the way you approach product management? Are you reading anything right now?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Marty Kagan's book on product management is one that I really enjoy. I occasionally sort of read it. Then so for me, that's a good one. Then I also enjoy the Google Sprint book. For me, that one was, again, a nice way to sort of, get quick prototypes, even though that's, I would say, more of a philosophy in terms of prototyping, but one that I enjoyed. Yeah, and to me, those are, there was also Neil Rayal's Hooked, which I sort of, enjoyed in terms of, having those hooks and triggers to allow for, customers to be hooked to your product. So I would say, those are ones that I've enjoyed. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to sneak in one of my questions, Vikram, especially given your experience in product management. As you go through, from being a junior product manager to more of a senior director type role, how do you see the skill sets of the product managers evolving and growing? Like, what are the kind of skill sets that a junior person should be growing if they want to become a senior director level person later on?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, one that, one of my managers told me, and it sticks in my head is, and it's quite apt, right? Like, is what got you here won't get you to the next level, right? Like, so it's important for us to sort of, have that growth mindset, right? Like, as I would say, when you're looking at it from a director, if that's your ambition, the ones that are important is, hey, are you able to sort of, have that strategic mindset, right? Like, and that's being able to articulate a product vision that goes, and a roadmap that goes beyond, call it the 3 to 6 month time frame. That is important, right? Like for one to express to me that there's that element, which is extremely important. Being able to express a strategic roadmap, the ability to influence. I mean, that is one that you can you've got to constantly keep building at. So I would say that's one that'll keep you in good stead. The ability to sort of look at data and make better decisions. You're not going to have all the data all the time, but are you able to sort of make decisions with what's good enough in the sense that the data that you have provides enough signaling to give you a sense of, hey, we can move forward from that standpoint. I would say, yeah, those are the ones which help, and then take you from being looking at maybe a capability, a feature to a product, and then spanning something that basically becomes a product line.
Absolutely. Cool. And we're, like I said, we do have wrapped up at 7:55, and we're right on time for that. Vikram, thank you again. It was a very insightful presentation. Every time I host one of these sessions, I learn a lot. So it was definitely true here. Thanks again. And we had a lot of great questions from the audience as well. I know you pointed out the weather is beautiful outside. So thank you again for taking the time to join us and not, go out and enjoy the weather. It was definitely useful to the audience here. And I do want to, same thing, thank our participants for spending the time here and asking great questions and participating in a very active session.
Before we wrap up, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I truly enjoyed it, and would love to be part of this again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely reach out to you offline and we'll get you connected. Couple other quick announcements. Our next event will be on June 10th, same time. Our speaker will be Johnny Chow, who's the TopTal product lead, and he'll be talking about remote freelance product managers. So very exciting topic. So I hope you guys are able to come back and join us. And I do encourage everyone here to fill out the NPS survey. It'll definitely help us provide feedback to our speakers and improve our programming going forward as well. And with that, I would like to wish everyone a good night. Thank you again for joining us. Have a great night. Cheers.